everyone. Welcome back to Nightly Noir. I know I've been gone for a while and haven't really uploaded much, but trust me, I've definitely been busy with fairly important things. Come on, I've already got like 5 of these things. What can I say? Cardboard is a hell of a drug. But no, in all seriousness, it feels great to be back in the chair and recording videos for you guys. Especially given the topic we're talking about today, which is the new Spider Noir TV show coming on Amazon Prime. It's coming out the 27th, which is, as of this recording, next Wednesday. So it's pretty exciting, and I wanted to get this video out pretty quick for me to share my thoughts and hopes for the show, just to kind of get a feel for what the show might be about. So I've got a few things here I wanted to talk about today, and hopefully you guys can share your thoughts down in the comments below as well. Well, to get started, with Nick Cage playing the new Spider Noir, it's kind of interesting. He isn't going to be a Peter Parker variant. He's actually a Ben Reilly variant, even though it is in the same timeline as the original Spider Noir. And of course, the weird thing about this whole project is the fact that the original run of the Spider-Man Noir comic book series did not do very well commercially, at least from what I've seen. I know that there is a newer comic book series, which I have actually started, and I'd love to be able to share my thoughts on it with you guys as well. We'll probably maybe circle back on that, maybe once the show starts. But it's interesting that Nick Cage is playing the role of Spider-Man Noir. In a way, it makes sense, because he was the voice of Spider-Man Noir in the Spider-Verse films, and, you know, he did a pretty good job there. But I guess there's 2 things I'm mostly concerned about. One of them is how old Nick Cage is, which I kind of get. The synopsis that I saw online said that this is supposed to be an older Spider-Man who gave up superheroing and eventually came back to it, or at least that's what the story for this show is about, is him coming back to put on the suit, which I think is going to be pretty interesting, and it does, you know, work within the confines of him being an older man, trying to do all these superhero things. So hopefully that will work. But my other bigger concern with Nick Cage is I hope that they don't rely too heavily on his, Nick Cage-isms, right? I don't want wacky faces, screaming. I would really prefer if we could maybe have him channel more of the energy he had in, like, films like National Treasure. I think he did a really good job there, and I think that kind of character works for the Spider-Man Noir character. A lot more understated, a lot more grounded, that sort of thing. So I'm cautiously optimistic that they aren't going to do that. I know that it is kind of one of Nick Cage's shticks, and what have you, but I'm hoping they don't really rely too heavily on that. The other thing is, I hope that they at least allow him to do good quips, because that is something that Spider-Man in general is pretty much really well known for, and I would really enjoy seeing a Spider-Man Noir that is quippy, but also thematic and, makes references that are relevant to the time period. This is the 1930s, so I hope he makes jokes that are relevant to the time period, or, things that would make sense in maybe like a noir context. Another one is, I'm hoping that he, as in the show, I hope that they focus more on the mystery aspects. The synopsis said that there's something going on with Sandman that seems to be maybe like the main antagonist, the main villain of this story, which is pretty interesting. But I hope that they don't make it too action-oriented. I'm hoping that it's more mystery based, more, feeding more into the noir tropes rather than just the superhero part. We'll see. Most of the trailer footage, I think, did a pretty good job of balancing the two, where we see a lot of the detective side and the superhero side, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Another thing that I'm a little concerned of, because I don't really know how much how much they had for the budget on this show. I'm hoping the special effects look pretty good. I know that obviously a lot of the scenes not requiring Spider-Man should be fine. I'm hoping that a lot of the cinematography is reminiscent of, classic noir, things like that. I'm obviously going to be watching it in black and white, so hoping that the cinematography holds up. My main concern is just the action scenes themselves, things like that. I think that they could definitely feed more into the noir tropes, like the cinematography tropes of like hiding information, that sort of thing, where, stuff happens off screen. I think that would be kind of interesting and maybe a unique way of developing the action without necessarily explicitly showing all of it. I do expect some, but hopefully it's not completely always that way. Hopefully they do kind of lean into some more noir styles of cinematography. I think that would be really cool. I'm hoping there's not too much focus on the gunplay. I know that is like a big thing, and it's a stark departure from, original Spider-Man never used guns. He had web shooters, and he used his fists and gadgets and stuff. But I know that for Spider-Man Noir, that is still a pretty prominent part. But hopefully it has more of him, doing the old fisticuff, The Spider-Verse movies, I don't believe, had him ever using guns because, it was supposed to be more of like a toned-down version of the character, so that might be why. But that could be interesting in and of its own, of just that stark difference. But I'm hoping they don't focus on it too much. Now here's a big one. I'm hoping that the tone is consistent. And what I mean by that is, I hope that if they choose to make it a very grounded noir-style story, that I hope they stick with that plot or that tone, and we don't get whiplash. One of the big things that a lot of people have trouble with, or like have problems with in terms of like the MCU movies, especially the newer ones, is just the fact that the tone whiplashes. We'll get like a serious action scene, and then somebody will say something quippy, And obviously that is Spider-Man's shtick, but they've kind of spread it across multiple heroes and stuff like that, and it just doesn't fit quite right. And it causes this tonal dissonance that I really hope that they avoid. I'm hoping the script is solid. Which, I don't know who's writing the script. I don't know who's directing it. I'm hoping that it's, at least acceptable, I guess is the word I'm thinking of. Also, this is kind of a big one that I don't know about you, but to me, a soundtrack can make or break a series, especially something as thematic as this. So I'm hoping for a very solid amount of, not necessarily big band stuff, but, jazz, bar, slow lounge music. Some of the clips I saw on the trailers showed them being at a club, and I believe one of the characters, this version of Felicia Hardy, Cat Hardy, I guess is what they're calling her, she's a lead singer at a jazz bar. Well, that's perfect. They can probably put diegetic music into the soundtrack, and it would look or sound amazing. So that's something I'm definitely hoping that they do well, and I'm hoping to look forward to it as well. Probably the last thing, and I know that it's probably not going to happen, sadly, is I'm hoping that there isn't any more controversy given this series. There was some stuff that came up shortly after some of the first trailers were released about the show, just basically referencing how they race swapped certain characters, and certain people are thinking that certain characters aren't being represented in the right way, an accurate portrayal, something like that. Like, look, I get it to a certain degree, but at the same time, they aren't even basing these. They're not basing this show on the original comic run. You know, this isn't the Peter Parker Spider-Man Noir. This is the Ben Reilly version. And honestly, if I had to guess, that's probably a licensing issue with, like, between Sony and Marvel and Disney and all that, you know, that mess, you know. So obviously they can take creative liberties with the IP, because this isn't the normal version of Spider-Man Noir. That's just my 2 cents. But I'm hoping that once the series starts and, you know, gets some traction, I'm hoping that there isn't much more controversy in the future once the show is started. Now, whether or not it does, that's neither here nor there. I'm not expecting it to be completely absent of it just because of how it already started a whole issue before it even aired. But yeah, that is a few of my hopes. I can't necessarily say expectations because I really don't know what to expect from this series too much. But I've got a few concerns and also just a few things that I hope, you know, are good. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the main thing I hope for this show is I hope that it's good. I hope that it's serviceable. I hope that it does not give Spider-Man Noir a bad rap, because aside from the newer comic run, the original one didn't do too well, which is a little surprising why this is even a thing. I think it was mainly because of the Spider-Verse movies, which is fine. But this isn't supposed to be, at least to my knowledge, not supposed to be that Spider-Man. It's not the one from the Spider-Verse. You want the one from the Spider-Verse, you read the newer comic run that started last year. And from what I've read of it so far, it's pretty good. One thing I wanted to add here near the end was, after editing this video and watching the trailer as I was editing it, I gotta say, it's pretty surprising that the show seems to be kind of feeding into some more psychological aspects of the Spider-Man lore, I guess you could say. Like, some of that stuff in the trailer was very, I don't know what you would call it, almost horror at some points. Like the part where there's like a cut in somebody's body and a bunch of spiders come out of it. Like, that's not necessarily super noir themed, but it's definitely more in like that psychological style that, you know, noir is kind of known for. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see where they're taking this story as far as like the psychological aspects of it, because the trailers are somewhat downright wild. And it does kind of make me worry that there is going to be a bit more of that Nick Cage stuff that I, you know, referenced earlier. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're just going to have to wait and see what the show offers us. So yeah, that's about all I have for this one. Thanks for coming into my little yap session. Let me know what you think about this show coming out, and maybe some of your concerns or hopes for the future. You know, just try to get a conversation started. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. This has been Nightly Noir, and have a good night.